Hello and welcome to yet another dimension. I am Jeremy, and today I'll be showing you guys my PS1 collection. PS1 is one of my favorite systems of all time, a very revolutionary system for its time, and I have about 100 games to show, so let's get into it. Now, the PS1, the original one, came out in 94 in Japan and then a year later in 95 in America, and it was the best selling console of the fifth generation. Like, Sony was new to the video game market, and they just blew everything out the water. The Nintendo 64 and the Sega Saturn. We have the original console design right here. I really enjoy it, the nice gray. And then later, with the release of the PS1 variant, the smaller design, what came out in 2000, it was the best-selling console even in 2000, and it also came with a screen attachment in some cases, and some of the classic designs of the controllers, and then the original DualShock, and then the variants right here. But let's just get into the games. So I said I have about 100 games, alphabetical order. Let's do it. First, we have a platformer that was supposed to release on the N64 but didn't, so it was only on the PlayStation. We have 40 Winks by GT Interactive. I would say a similar to Rare platformer for back in the day. It's pretty decent, and it's funny. It says right here in the front, "Move Over Mario." Nintendo official Nintendo magazine, because it was supposed to come out in Nintendo 64, but at the very last moment they decided not to release it, and they even had reviews in the Nintendo magazines of the game on the N64. But then eventually this game did release on the N64 through a Kickstarter, I think in 2019, I believe. So it was a crazy story. This game is decent. It's worth a look. It's not too expensive, so check it out. 40 Winks platformer. And collections nowadays for older school games are very popular nowadays, but they even had it back then in the PlayStation generation. For this one, is the collection of Activision classic games on the 2600. Atari, all the classic ones. I mean, they have so many on here. So if you're looking for a good way to play the old school 2600 games on the Atari, look out for this one. This next game, developed by the now defunct Japan studio, rest in peace. The first game that had to use the DualShock controller. We have Ape Escape, and I don't have the manual for it, just a case in the game. And I haven't put too many hours into this. I only played a little bit of it, and what I've played of it, it's innovative for its time, but nowadays it's probably not as good. But it's cool, and I miss Japan Studio because they used to take risk, but now it's not as much as it is in Sony, and that's a discussion for another day. But let's continue on. So this is one of the absolute rarest and most expensive games I have on the system, and it's okay game. It's a licensed game. It's Batman Forever, the arcade game. Now this is different from the Batman Forever that was released on I believe the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and also the PlayStation. But this game was actually, I believe, in arcades, and it's a crazy beat 'em up. I played with my roommate Andrew, and we had a good time playing it, and it's insane. It's like Batman on crack, and this game is crazy expensive. It goes for 100 plus on only disc only, and I found this for a great deal. But it's, if you can find it for cheap, I think it'd be fun, but don't pay for the crazy prices. It's not worth it. Next, we have a game made by Sony. They try to make a new character, and it kind of looks like a familiar face. Voiced by Phil Hartman of SNL, rest in peace. We have Blasto, and it has that cool full artwork. Now, this is kind of like a third-person shooter platformer game. I've only played a little bit of this. It says, look, Blasto's here to save Uranus. You gotta love the 90s. And yeah, it has that like the immature humor that back then, and it's a decent game. It's hard to get used to the controls, but it's cool. You can find it for a good price. You should pick it up. Then it didn't really go anywhere though. Sony was hoping that went somewhere. Now, a franchise that has been long forgotten, and hopefully one day it comes back. We have the first game in the franchise, made by Crystal Dynamics. We have Blood Omen: Legacy of Kane. This game, it was early in the PlayStation life cycle. I think it's '96. It came out. It's kind of like Diablo-esque, isometric RPG, and like you just go around, dungeon crawling, and it has a lot of full motion animation in it as well. And this is a good start to the series, but the next entry is my favorite in the series, and we might get to that. Next, we have a very obscure game on the PlayStation. It's a budget game, but not so budget nowadays. We have Board Game Top Shop, a quirky Japanese game made by Tomo and Kid. I see, yeah, this very obscure title. So I found this for very cheap somewhere, and I thought it was interesting because it had that logo on the top. This is like, it indicates this is like a budget game, so I think it was only $20 when it came out. And it's like a kind of a Monopoly-esque game where you go around department stores and you buy them out. You sell merchandise. Then you do upgrades to it, and you just go around and see who can win. So it's not really a game you play by yourself. You need other people to play, but it's actually a lot of fun. It has the Japanese charm. So check it out. If you find that for cheap, you should get it. Next, one of the most unique original fighting games on the system or I've ever played, and the first Squaresoft game. We have Bushido Blade, and I love that art. And I absolutely love this game. I was playing this recently, and it's like one of the most realistic fighting games. So you pick your different swords, or like even the staff, and it's really realistic because like one hit can kill you in this. It's very fun to play. It's very intense, and it can get really hilarious at times. But I love this game. I wish they'll bring it back. I love the realism to this, because there's not really anything like this on the market that I can think of. And there's a sequel to it. I need to get this sequel to this game, and I really hope Squaresoft they bring this back one day. But back then, Squaresoft, man, they took some chances, man. They have so many great games, and you'll see some of them. This game, I wasn't planning on keeping, and it's a very famous cover for the PlayStation because it's so ridiculous, and it has like, it's so different from what the actual gameplay is. We have Bust a Move 2 Arcade Edition, and look at that artwork. Like, what is going on with that? So the tagline is so addictive it should be illegal. Now that is straight up 90s cover. But in the back you see it's kind of like a chibi Japanese aesthetic. Like you play as little like dinosaur monsters, and it's like I can think of like a match 3 game. I forget, I haven't played it in a while, but I popped it in just to test it and see if it worked, and I actually got addicted to it. So the tagline does work, but that cover, man, what is going on with that? And this also has a long box version. I have a couple long box versions of games, which you'll see that later. But this game is great and it's cheap. You should get it. Bust a Move, great. So we got the first Squaresoft RPG on the list. It's a sequel to one of the greatest RPGs of all time. We have Chrono Cross. This came out in '99 and it was highly anticipated. Now this is, like I said, is a sequel to the original Chrono Trigger, and I haven't played this yet because I still need to play Chrono Trigger. Unfortunately, I know, just chill. I like to play games. RPGs I just have a hard time finishing. But yeah, this game has supposed to be have one of the best soundtracks of all time. I've always heard of that, but I've heard it's a disappointing sequel to Chrono Trigger, but I'll be the judge of that. Some people absolutely love it. Some people are like okay with it. But I think this just got a re-release on the PS4 or PS5, whatever, the newer systems. So definitely something you should pick up, and it's not that expensive. Oh boy, so this franchise, this is one of the main franchises that really got me into gaming and absolutely loving it. the mascots of the PlayStation. And I'm sorry, I have the greatest hits kind of version of this. We have the original Crash Bandicoot. And this game, you know, it's not seen as highly as other platformers, because people say it's not, it's like in between the 3D and the 2D, but I really enjoy the style of it. I love like the characters, the music is really good, but this game, when I went back to it, it's super hard. It doesn't age as well as the other two games, in my opinion, and it's still great. So this is like one of the first like big hits of the PlayStation, and it's still great to this day, and I will definitely recommend it. And then next year in '97, they made a sequel that is way better. We have Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, a great sequel, great sequel. It had a lot of different levels, like the jetpack level. The bosses were fun, the hub area, and like Cortex is like trying to like control Crash, like kind of like manipulating him in this. It was great. This like made it like the franchise it is today, I think. And then my favorite in the franchise, one of the first games I remember beating back in the day. I love this game so much. I got it Christmas Day 1998. We have Crash Bandicoot Warped. I fucking love this game. Yeah, I did everything in this game back in the day, and I would just replay it over and over again. I could probably recite it word for word. Uka Uka is free. Oh, it cannot be. Grave. Great. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry guys. So, but I love this game. People say like debate between like 2 and 3, what was the better one. And 4 that originally, I mean, just came out. People like that one a lot too. But it had like the jet skis and the airplane levels. Some people like it, some people don't. But I love this game so much. So much character in it. Love Crash. And of course, if you're a popular franchise, you're going to have some spin-offs. So 2 spin-offs that came out on the PlayStation. Oh yeah, all those games are produced by Naughty Dog. And also this one too. We have Crash Team Racing, a great kart racer competition to the Mario Kart franchise. And I love this game too as well. I didn't get the remake that came out on the PS4 yet. But this game, you can't go wrong with this. This is the last Naughty Dog Crash game. They went out with a bang, and this is a great game. You should definitely pick it up. Now, people like to shit on this game, but I love it. It's a mini game collection. Crash Bash by Eurocoma. This game gets bashed a lot because I mean it's the first Crash game that wasn't made by Naughty Dog, but I like this game a lot. The mini games are fun. It can't really compete with Mario Party, but what much can? Okay, we had this back in 2000. You played it. You enjoyed it. You didn't have much else to do. So Crash Bash is good. You should definitely get it. Fuck all the haters. Now, back in the 90s, Pokemon was the biggest thing out. Then, they had to come out with something very similar. We had Digimon World, a RPG where you feed and like take care of your Digimon. You raise it, you make it go to the bathroom. And I love this game back in the day. I never actually beat it. I would just like to, take care of my Digimon. And I always remember like how the Digimon would just poop everywhere and you have to clean it up. It was hilarious. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game and I enjoyed the cover a lot. Yeah, so you just definitely pick this up. It's a good game and it has a lot of games in the franchise. I think it's like on 5. And Digimon Survive, I think, just came out as well. Next, sadly, I don't have the first game in the series, and it's made by Capcom. I'm slacking, I always see it, but I do have the sequel, which is much more expensive. We have Dino Crisis 2. Now, Dino Crisis 1 was a survival horror game very similar to Resident Evil. It was actually made by the creator of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami. This game is a straight up action game. I was playing it recently, and yeah, it's a straight up action game. You don't have to conserve your ammo really. Also, you get like points, like combos and shit. That is not like that in the original game. The original game is straight up survival horror. So if you like more action games, action-packed games, this is the game for you. It is tank controls though, but tank controls are the best controls. I don't want to hear anybody say that. Fixed camera angles, but yeah. If you look up, I'm gonna show some gameplay. If you think that looks cool, check it out. This game is expensive now. It's like $100, I think. But yeah, definitely play it. It's on the PS3 store, I believe, if you can buy anything on there. Next, one of my games of my childhood, the sequel. I never played the original of this, and it's kind of the precursor to the Grand Theft Auto formula before 3 came out. We have Driver 2, and I just remember just driving around, just hitting people, going around, and like doing missions and like actually getting out your car and stealing other people's cars. It was wild. Like back then, that was crazy. I think, yeah, this came out 2000, like, so the year right before Grand Theft Auto 3 just absolutely changed gaming. But this game is great. I recommend it just for like see where like maybe like Grand Theft Auto, where they got the ideas from. It's made by Reflections Interactive. I'm not sure who that is. But yeah, great game, very cheap. Get it, Driver 2. So this game right here, it's kind of a first-person horror game, adventure game. No combat really, and it's made by From Software. And it's one of the most expensive games I have. It is Echo Knights, the original game. It has 2 sequels, I believe, on the PS2. And yeah, it takes place in 1913. A ship just like mysteriously disappears, and you gotta figure out what happened to it. So you just gotta go around, like, solve puzzles. It has like a spooky atmosphere, but this is a game from the 90s. It has like the outdated graphics that if you don't enjoy that, the voice acting, the controllers are hard to get used to. But if you like an old school game like that, you want like something that's kind of different from the norm of today's gaming, you should try this out. It is very expensive though, unfortunately. It's like $100, and this is a reproduction. This is like one of the first reproductions. I got case, and I just have the disc, the real disc. That's what it looks like. So sadly, this is disc only. I don't have the case for this. There's another Squaresoft game, another fighting game. We have Urgeist, God Bless the Ring, a weird title. I believe this was made by who? I forgot what. Yeah, Dream Factory. Yeah, Dream Factory. They made the fighting games. I believe they made Total 1 and 2, number 2. And this game, I've only played a little bit of it. It's a fighting game. I don't know much about it, but it's decent. The reason why everybody wanted to get this game because it had Cloud, like, had the Final Fantasy characters in it from 7, and like people were like, oh, we gotta get it just for that. So it's even on the cover. But yeah, it's a decent fighting game, and it's not better than Bushido Blade, I don't think. But definitely find this if you can. It's enjoyable. So another fighting game that nobody talks about is very unique though, and I enjoyed what I played of it. And it's not made by Titus. Don't worry, the makers of Superman 64 is actually made by Ukes, people who made SmackDown vs. Raw and all those games. All the way to now, we have Evil Zone, and I gotta get the game with the anime girl on it, all the anime characters. You know how like you're watching the anime and like it says like, oh, in the next episode, like they had like every fight, it shows like the new character, like, oh, on next week we're gonna be fighting blah blah blah, and that it does like a kind of like a TV show. I was like, what? That's cool. That's cool that they did that. But yeah, I thought this game was very interesting. And I believe there's only one punch or like button to actually hit people. It's very weird. I haven't got used to the controls yet, but you should check this out. I mean, I think it's like $50 or so to find, and you should check it out. If you see gameplay of it, you should get it. Support Ukes from 99. This franchise is overlooked and forgotten. There was 2 games made for it, and I was playing it, and I think this game is like one of the best looking games on the PS1. It is Fear Effect 1 and it came out in 2000, and it has like a fixed camera angles and like kind of a cell shaded look to it, and I think it looks great, absolutely fantastic. That's why I like the fixed camera angles. It's very cinematic, and I think it takes a lot from Metal Gear Solid as well, and I enjoy it. It has that feel to it, and I really love it. The controls got a little hard to get used to, but I finally figured it out. You play like as like a covert agent, where like you're trying to get to a businessman's daughter, like try to use her as leverage to get money from him. She's like carrying a dark secret. The story is actually pretty interesting from what I played. And then, I mean, and it's 4-disc, so it's 4-disc, and like the game is not even that long. So like it's like cutscenes of voice acting. And then a year later, in 2001, late in the PlayStation life cycle, we have Fear Effect 2, and this is the prequel to the original game. And you see they bumped up the sex appeal on it. But yeah, it's more of the same. I've only played a little bit of this, but definitely check these games out if you like the old school fixed camera angles, like cinematic shooters with a pretty good story. Just check it out. I really enjoy those games. Then we get to one of the franchises that the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, is known for. Unfortunately, I don't have the most popular one yet. I have the manual, but I know I'm bad. But I do have one of the best games, and Terry, member of the Preferred Dimension, he loves this game. It's one of his favorite games of all time. It is, I'm sorry Terry, how the condition of this. We have Final Fantasy Tactics, tactical based game made by Squaresoft, of course. And I've heard that this game is similar in story and tone to Berserk, and I love Berserk, the anime and the manga, and I can't wait to play this. I might even try to beat this year, and I enjoy tactical games like that. So, and I'm sorry I don't have Final Fantasy VII, like I said, but I do have Final Fantasy VIII though. My boy Dan, I mean, he loves this game. This is a love it or hate it game. Mostly hate, from what I've heard. I heard the combat system is broken. That's like a card system, I believe. I don't know. I haven't played it yet, but I do know, back in the day, the intro cutscene was like, it's like, how can games look any better than this? That was the reaction to Final Fantasy VIII, because you go to from Final Fantasy 7 to 8, it's like not even compared to like the character models. But yeah, I've heard really mixed things about this game, but like I'll try it one day. But I've heard nothing but great things from this game. The next sequel, Final Fantasy 9, came out in 2000, and this game is supposed to be absolutely fantastic. It went back to the medieval settings of like the older school games, and people really enjoy that. They were missing that, and I can't wait to play this. And like all of these games have 4 discs, so big expansive worlds. Like Final Fantasy was at its height at that time. And then like later in the life cycle, we got some Final Fantasy anthology collections from the past games. We have Final Fantasy Anthology that comes with Final Fantasy 6 and also Final Fantasy 5. I've heard both of these games are great. I mean, Final Fantasy 6 is supposed to be like one of the best games of all time, RPGs. But this, it comes with like animated cutscenes, but unfortunately, I believe this is like, it has load times during the loading. I mean, for the menus. But I know they have that in like this game right here. We have Final Fantasy Chronicles. It has Chrono Trigger and also Final Fantasy 4. So like Final Fantasy 4 is supposed to be like one of the first games that had great stories in the RPG. But yeah, this also has animated cutscenes, I believe, even by Akira Toriyama for Dragon Ball fame. But yeah, this one definitely has like loading when like in between battles and like push and start, I believe. So this is not the best versions of these games. I would just go with the DS version or the PSP versions of it. So let's get away from Final Fantasy and let's get to Frogger. Yeah, the old school game. Konami? Yeah, Konami made this, I guess. Hasbro. He's back. Yeah, it's a 3D Frogger game. I mean, Frogger's fun, but it's fun to play Frogger sometimes, I guess. Is Frogger, okay? So this game will only have the disc for it, but this game is actually really good, made by EA. We have Future Cop LAPD, futuristic sci-fi third-person shooting mech game. This still holds up to this day. Definitely look that up. If you like what you see, you should definitely play it. I think it's really good. Oh, now this game is a product of its time. I always liked this game. I had this game back in the day. It really changed throughout the years, and this is the third game in this, the trilogy. I think this is the last game, actually. We have Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, and like Gex, he's a love it. I mean, he's a hate it or you deal with it kind of type of character, because he's like a wisecracking cultural like satire guy. He just does a whole bunch of one-liners that are super dated. Like half the stuff he even says, I don't even know, and I grew up during the 90s to early 2000s, and I don't know what he's talking about most of the time. It's a decent platformer. I actually like the how he goes into like the media dimension, how he goes into like the media dimension, the TV world, and like he has to like go to different worlds. I like that. That's cool. And he has to save this girl. I think, yeah, she's like on Baywatch or whatever, Playboy model, and like they have actual live action footage of her, and he's like talking to her. It's cringe, but I think it's good cringe. I enjoy some cringe sometimes, and it's a decent platform made by Crystal Dynamics. And like he's the face of Crystal Dynamics back in the day. This next game, it's a very underrated game. A game I had as a kid in one of my favorite Disney movies back in the day. We have Disney's Hercules. Now, I used to play this game all the time as a kid, and it was super duper hard to beat. I forget what part I always get stuck on, but this game has beautiful graphics. It has like the 2.5D graphics, and it has like hand-drawn art, I believe, in the sprites. And like a lot of the games back then, they were like all 3D polygonal graphics that, you know, they don't really age that well, but this ages really well. The gameplay was fun, and it went through the whole entire movie, and it actually played scenes from the movie. So if you enjoy the movie, this is a good companion piece to the original movie from '97. Definitely pick this up. This is a great game, and it's not too expensive. I think it's going up in price a little bit, but definitely get that. What is a rare game, and it's kind of expensive nowadays, and then my absolute favorite like kung fu movie star, martial artist star, I love him so much. We have Jackie Chan's Stunt Master. Yeah, he had a game on the PlayStation, very overlooked game. I didn't even know that he had a game until I seen this super cheap back in the day. And then it also has the rental stickers on it. You gotta love that. And this game, it's like a beat 'em up, 3D beat 'em up, and it has like really weird looking graphics. It's kind of creepy at times, but they consulted Jackie Chan in this game, and like actually used his mocap for the moves, so like they look really good. They're like realistic, and it's it's a good game. I haven't really played much of it. Made by Radical Entertainment. I think they're gone now, but yeah, definitely look. If you find this, pick it up. It is expensive though, especially for complete. Another game, I only have the disc for this, unfortunately, but it's a super cheap game. It's a Sony produced game, I think, made by Single Track, the people who made Twisted Metal, the original ones. We have Jet Moto 2, and I used to play this game all the time back in the day. It's like it's like the hoverboards, hovercrafts, and like you just a racing game of the day. It's kind of like a competition to wave race, I believe, for the N64, and it's I haven't played it in a long time. It's just nostalgia at this point. I need to get like the actual box for this, but it's a cool game, super cheap. If you like racing games, you can't go wrong with that. Now, you definitely cannot go wrong with this. One of my absolute favorite PlayStation games of all time. We have Klonoa Door to Phantom Mile. This game is fucking great. So it's made by Namco, and this actually was remade this year. Like, it came out last month, the first one and the second one. So this has gone down in price. But this game is my most expensive game on the PlayStation. This is a reproduction case, but I do have the disc, of course. And this game is like $200 for the disc only. Now, it is warranted because this game is awesome. It's a 2.5D platformer with absolutely great soundtrack, character designs. The way you defeat enemies, like you grab them and then like you use them to manipulate like your jumping and like throw them at other enemies. So like you have no weapons. It's the only weapons is like you use the enemies themselves, and they use it so well. The bosses are really good. The story is really good. It's actually like a sad, touching story, and like I was like, wow, this is like deep for a platformer from '97. Like no platformers are really doing this. So you need, like, if you don't listen to anything I say, but if you only listen to this, please play this game. Play Konoha, at least the first one, and the second one's supposed to be good too, but definitely a must play. Also a great game, well, I referred to it earlier, made by Crystal Dynamics. We have Legacy of Kane, Soul Reaver. Also on the Dreamcast, I would just play the Dreamcast version. I only have the disc, but this game is great. Great character designs, platformer action, very dark, great story. I think the writer of this wrote Uncharted 3. I forgot her name, Amy. I forgot her full name, but it has a great story. Character development is great. Definitely play that. Final Fantasy VII changed gaming in like a big way because it brought JRPGs to the forefront back in the 90s, and everybody was trying to compete with that. And this is Sony's answer, like true answer, because this is one of the most expensive games back then. We have The Legend of Dragoon, original one, and wait, no, there's only one, I think. Yeah, there's only one. And this game was like a big production for Japan studio, and this is supposed to be like the graphics are great. It has a lot of cinematic cutscenes, and like it's a turn-based RPG. And unfortunately, it didn't go over well with the fans too much because this came out in like 2000. It was kind of too late in the PlayStation life cycle to really compete with like all the other games Squaresoft was making. So it didn't really get off the ground to and like become a huge franchise. But this is all really like, people really love this game and they wanted to bring it back. But I don't know, hopefully they do one day. I haven't really played much into it, unfortunately, but I will give my opinion once I do. But let me know what you think of Legend of Dragoon. Now this is my one and only light gun game. I thought I sold this, but I kept it. I thought I'll never use a light gun, but as of late I have. We have Lethal Enforcers 1 and 2, a classic light gun games from the early 90s by Konami, and you need the Justifier light gun to play it, and of course a CRT that I don't have at my house right now. But yeah, I plan on playing this. It's a decent one. I played a little bit of it with the controller. You know, of course it's not the same, but light gun games are freaking awesome, and this is one of the more popular ones back in the day, in the early 90s. It's kind of expensive though to find. One of the early examples of what we have now, the collections of games, and this is the only working design games that I got on the PlayStation. We have Lunar Eternal Blue Complete, the collection, collector's edition. A great collector's editions that I got for like $45, and I was super happy to get. I think it's missing only the map, unfortunately, but I have everything else in it. I'll show it right now, and I haven't put any hours into this, unfortunately, yet. But I plan on to. But I'm happy to have this. Like, this art is beautiful, and it's like one of my favorite pieces in my collection. So yeah, look for it. It's supposed to be a great RPG. I think it originally was on the Sega CD, and it was ported to the PlayStation. But I think it's on the PSP now as well. But yeah, definitely look for Lunar 2, made by Game Arts, I believe. Yeah, Game Arts. And Working Designs, miss those guys. They put so much work into their games, like the packaging, and I wish they'll come back. Next, we have a game that I was kind of disappointed by because it's kind of a survival horror game. The classic fixed camera angles, tank controls, horror that I absolutely love. Takes place in space, and actually on Mars. We have the Martian Gothic Unification. Now I like that cover a lot, and I was like, oh, what is this? I've never seen this before. You play as 3 protagonists, and you're like sent to Mars to see why it has gone silent. Like there's a station there, but you cannot interact with each other. You can go in between the 3 characters at any time. It was very innovative for its time, and I believe this was a PC game first, and then ported it to the PlayStation all the way until like 2001. So this is a late PlayStation game. And yeah, the game is like slow plodding. It's kind of boring. It takes forever to move around. Like it's not that fun to play, unfortunately. It's very interesting in a lot of ways, and I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's not one of my favorites, unfortunately. But if you find it for cheap, you should check it out. So this game right here is pretty weird. It's called MDK. It actually has a sequel on the PlayStation 2, and you play as a janitor that's sent like in this like suit, like this alien suit that has like a sniper rifle in it, and like one of the best features, or like the new features of the day, was like a sniper mode that they did. It's a okay game. If you find it for cheap, you can check it out, but it's nothing that's really special. It's just a weird game, obscure game. Now this is a first party exclusive PlayStation game. It is Medieval, and it was recently remade for the PS4. So you play as Sir Daniel Fortescue. He was actually on PlayStation All-Stars. Shout out to PlayStation All-Stars. That failure of a game, but we got something. So this is like a kind of like a horror comedy game, action platformer, hack and slash, and it's a fun game. And it's funny that like he's supposed to be like a hero, but like he actually like died before he even get into battle, so he's trying to redeem himself. So the story is goofy. Like they're always making fun of this guy, like all the people, and like they just say like just the shittiest things to him. It's hilarious. But yeah, definitely play this or the remake that's on the PS4 now. Now we get to my favorite PlayStation 1 game. One of my favorite franchises of all time. Changed gaming, made it more cinematic, movie-like, and I love the movies. We have Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. Look at that. Ooh, this changed it so much. My favorite video game character, Solid Snake, and man, the art, look at that art. I love it. So, and also, I showed in my most recent pickups video. Check it out. I have a sealed copy, greatest hits of Metal Gear Solid. So Metal Gear Solid, it really, like Kojima, he was a visionary back then. Like it was nothing really like this. It felt like a blockbuster movie, and like it was not. Yeah, like I said, it was nothing like it back in the day. It was cinematic. It had like the, it popularized the cutscenes. Like every game after this, it needed to be like cinematic and like use different camera angles. The voice acting was great. The story was great. And also one of my favorite genres is a stealth game. So it's like you've heard of Metal Gear Solid. Play it, please play it. You could play the Twin Snakes on the GameCube, but it doesn't have the original voice acting. They redid it, and also it doesn't have the original soundtrack. The soundtrack is a fucking greatness on this. I love it. So definitely play Metal Gear Solid if you haven't played it. At least watch the cutscenes online or something. Back when Konami was actually a game company. Oh, also I recently got this. We have Metal Gear Solid VR missions. It's just the the VR missions, stealth little action mini games, and it's a fun game to play. Now this is one of my favorite fighting game franchises. I mean, everybody knows of this. Mortal Kombat trilogy. I think the best way to play the old school format of Mortal Kombat, it like kind of combines the elements of the first 3 games, and I believe the PlayStation version is the preferred version over the N64 version. It has like better audio, and this game I love this game. Mortal Kombat 3 got shat on, and it's kind of based on this. I really like Mortal Kombat 3. Is one of my favorites, but definitely get Mortal Kombat trilogy. One of the best in the franchise, in my humble opinion. Another collection by Namco, we have the Namco Museum Collection 1. Now this came out in 5 volumes, and it, you know, spelled Namco in each one. And I had the first one. I believe I did have the third one, and the I think O and C is pretty expensive. But yeah, I had the first one. It has, you know, Pac-Man, Pole Position, Galaga, you know, the classics of the time. And like, you know, this is good to have back in the day. You know, today you can easily get these games probably online, you know, digital download. But it was cool to have this, especially back then. Also, yeah, this is not the only version of this. This is more like the rare version that spells out the Namco name. There's like a different version to this as well. Oh, so this is one of the most underrated racing games on the PlayStation. We have NASCAR Rumble. Now you hear NASCAR is like, I don't watch NASCAR. Like, why do I care about this? No, this game is an arcadey Mario Kart-esque game where you do get pickups, you know, boosts, and like you can hit the other cars, and it's a lot of fun. You do shortcuts. It's like, I was so surprised when I got this. I got this for super cheap. I had no idea about this, and it's actually made by EA Redwood Studios, aka Visceral Studios, Visceral Games, the maker of Dead Space. So I mean, RIP to them. Fuck you, EA. But I love this game. This was a great game. You should definitely look out. Cheap, really cheap, so get it. NASCAR Rumble. And also a classic arcade sports game, we have NFL Blitz 2001, the later, you know, edition. And come on, it's Blitz. Blitz is fucking great. It's still fun to play to this day. So if you ever played Blitz, pick it up. Even if you don't like football, you know, you elbow dropping dudes, it's hilarious. You should definitely give it a try. Another kind of like forgotten game, but it's still great, and it had a sequel. I think this game is overlooked. I like it a lot. It's Nightmare Creatures, and it reminds me kind of Bloodborne. It has like the Victorian horror, like the werewolf of that time, and like you have to go around killing a whole bunch of like creatures, nightmare creatures, and like it controls really well, and like the fighting, the combat is great, and like it's a lot of fun. Like you put right into the action. You can pick between 2 characters. I had a lot of fun playing this, and I plan on beating it very soon. And it also has a sequel on the PlayStation and also on the Dreamcast, which is fun as well. But yeah, definitely pick this up. It's a must play, I think. At least try it out. Made by Callisto. So this is an EA game, Nuclear Strike. I mean, part of the Strike series. The original one, I think it was on Desert Strike on the Genesis, and this is just another sequel to it. Helicopter, hovercraft, fighting game, you know, combat game, and you know, if you enjoy those type of games, you just go around mission base, killing a whole bunch of fools, you know, terrorists. Check it out. So this game is very unique. It's not really for me, but it was made by Capcom. Same director as the Devil May Cry series, and also Power Stone, and also the Dragon's Dogma coming out soon, the sequel. We have One Piece Mansion. You gotta take care of a mansion with all your tenants. It's kind of a puzzle game. I played this and I had no idea what the fuck to do. I was so confused, man. You have no idea. But yeah, it's a Capcom game. Capcom Simp over here. I have to get it, and it's pretty cheap. If you can figure it out, play it, check it out. It has a cool art style, at least, you know, cool characters. Ooh, one of my favorite games on the PlayStation. Played it a lot as a kid, and the sequel to it came out, I believe, last year. We have Oddworld, the original one. This game is super sweet. The cinematic 2D platformer that was popular back then, like Heart of Darkness, Prince of Persia-esque back in the day. This game is great. I love it. It's very comedic, dark humor, and the story's interesting. The characters, I love it so much, and it's a lot of fun to play. Possess the enemies, and like you make them shoot the other guys. It's so great. You should definitely play this. And it's very challenging, but it's definitely worth it, and it's beautiful. The art is beautiful. This I just heard that is getting a re-release or a remake. Is Pac-Man World. It's the first, I think, real attempt to have a platforming Pac-Man game. I mean, the classic Pac-Man from 1980. Like, you can't go wrong with that. But this game is actually really fun, and they made a couple of Pac-Man Worlds. And yeah, you should definitely play this. This game is great. Unfortunately, I have the greatest hits, but the 20th anniversary. Wow, man, it's been almost it's been 40 years. Wow, that's crazy. Getting old. No, this game, this game I just got randomly. I seen it. I was like, I've never seen this game. This is a super early game. I think it's from like 95, 96. We have Phil Soma. A shooter. It's a vertical shooter, also a top-down shooter, and also a shooter when you go straight to the camera. It just changes completely at like when you're playing it, and it's actually an interesting game. It uses, unfortunately, it doesn't have like sprite-based 2D art. It uses the 3D models of that time, and it's a little dated in that region, but it's still fun to play, and I do enjoy shooters like that, the vertical shooters. But yeah, check it out. I'm gonna show you some gameplay, see if you like it. I think I enjoyed it. I mean, I did enjoy it, and also it has like a lot of voice acting in it as well. Ooh, see, Squaresoft, they're definitely the MVPs of the PlayStation, because they have so many unique experiences and great experiences, such as Parasite Eve, one of my favorite PlayStation games. The cinematic RPG, the cinematic horror RPG. So Parasite Eve, it takes place over 5 days, and you play as Aya, and you're a police officer, and then out of nowhere, like, people are like combusting into flames, like dying, they're mutating, and I love transformation stuff like that. And you find out the mitochondria in your body is like taking over, and it's like sentient. It's insane story. It's good story. The gameplay is very unique. It's like real-time action, but like still not turn-based, but like strategy, tactical, and it's great. It's very unique for its time. It's controversial because in the sequel, Parasite Eve 2, they changed it to a survival horror game. I love survival horror. I love it. I actually really enjoyed this game from what I played so far. I haven't beaten it yet. But so other people really love the original, and I'm glad that we got this, but I do wish they kept the original gameplay because it was so unique of its time. But I still love this game from what I played so far, and I still need to beat it. And I'm glad it's another survival horror game. Now, this game is not too expensive, but it's getting up there. This game is kind of expensive. It's like $100, I believe now, for a complete. So check them out. They're really both worth getting, especially the first one. So back in the day, I used to play this game all the time. It's a rhythm game, very unique, very quirky, and it has one of my favorite characters from back in the day. We have Harapper the Rapper. So this game, so many iconic music tracks and like scenes. I love it. My favorite was the driving one, and I wish they would really bring them back. They made a sequel in the PS2, and this game I think it might be broken. It's a lot of fun to play, but I can never get it right. So hopefully they can bring this back one day. Rhythm games like this is a lot of fun. So this is a reproduction case. This is the real, of course, the real disc, and I'll look out for this because this game is pretty expensive nowadays. Now, this is another childhood favorite. I believe I had this on the N64. This is like an old school Midway game. We have Rampage World Tour. Yeah, so I used to play this game all the time. It's really fun multiplayer. You destroying the city. Like this game can go up to like so many levels. I forget, like we get to like level 99. We stayed up all night, and like we got to the like very end. Eventually you make it to the moon. It's wild, but lots of fun. Arcadey game, so fun, man. Now we get into one of my absolute favorite franchises, along with Metal Gear Solid. Started on the PlayStation, and this is one of my crown jewels of my collection. One of my favorite pieces in my PS1 collection. We have the long box version of Resident Evil, the original. Oh my god, look at that! That is beautiful. I love this so much. The only game I have in like the protection case, and yeah. So I love survival horror, like I was explaining. And I love Resident Evil, the cheesy voice acting, the so great. The intro cinematic, I just watch it over and over again. It never gets old. And made by Shinji Mikami, and this is started it all in '96. Changed gaming, the fixed camera angles, the puzzle solving, like the mansion, like eventually you know like the back of your hand, and like so much like cool design in this, monsters, and it just continued on from there. And I still think this game is still great. The remake is my favorite horror game of all time, but can't go wrong with this. And the Evil Dead inspired cover, one of my favorite covers of all time. Absolute classic. Must have in your collection for the PS1. I'm such a big fan of Resident Evil. They later released a director's cut to the original because Resident Evil 2 was taking so long to make. It came out in '97, the director's cut for the original Resident Evil, and this is the jewel case version. I mean, it's only in the jewel case. It has a double disc. It has the demo for Resident Evil 2 in it, and also it includes like extra modes. It has like the training mode, advanced mode, standard, like more camera angles. And this was supposed to have the uncut Japanese version of the intro with like the colored version, and also it had like more blood and gore, but they messed up and they didn't ship it with that. So like Capcom was fucking up back then, but this game is still great. You know, it still has the original soundtrack on it. Then we get to yet another release of the original Resident Evil. We're still making the Resident Evil 2 game, and they still wanted to add DualShock support to this game. So it's a DualShock version of Resident Evil, the original. And this one is basically the same as the other one, just a DualShock. But one key difference, it has different soundtrack, and is absolutely way worse than the original one. And the basement music is so infamous that I absolutely love it. Listen to this, man. Classic, right? Classic. My cat made that not too long ago. But it has DualShock support, and I mean, if you need to play Resident Evil, play it. It doesn't have the demo for the Resident Evil 2, so. But I would suggest playing the director's cut or just the original, because it has the original soundtrack, which is absolutely amazing. Then we got to one of the most anticipated sequels finally in early January 1998. With a new cast, 2 protagonists, Resident Evil 2, many people's favorites. I still like the original Resident Evil, the GameCube remake. This one is a close second with Resident Evil 4. But you introduce Leon, Claire in the Raccoon City. It's much more more action packed than the original one, and it's very still scary. It's still great to this day. Soundtrack, atmosphere, like the liquors, the designs of it, it's so great. Must play, must have in your collection. And there's a remake on the PS4, which was my 2019 game of the year. Absolutely great remake, must have. And still the fixed camera angles, survival horror gameplay that I absolutely love. And we got the end of the trilogy. We have Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, starring my girl Jill, and of course Nemesis stars. He's the star of the game. And now this game is a little controversial because I think it wasn't supposed to be like the main Resident Evil entry. That was supposed to be Code Veronica. But instead they made that for the Dreamcast, and they just decided to make this. and it takes place around the same time as Resident Evil 2, and it only has one campaign, but it was innovative for its time for the Nemesis, who like would chase you through different rooms, similar to Clock Tower, where they like, you know, pursuers chasing you, but this guy was fucking intense. You get like extras if you beat him. This game was much more action packed, and it introduced the 1680 turn that like came a key in the Resident Evil franchise and made it easier to control. But I still love this game. I'd like the other two more, but I still really enjoy this game, and you know, stars my baby Jill. Love you, girl. Also, it comes with the Dino Crisis demo disc. Then we get to the first spin-off, Resident Evil. I talked about like all these in my Resident Evil collection video. Check it out, the history of Resident Evil. We have Resident Evil Survivor, originally a light gun game. It was a light gun game in Japan, but of course what happened with Columbine in '99, in April of '99, when this came out, they took out the support for the light gun, and you only control with the controller. And I think you can use the mouse pad for the PlayStation as well. But yeah, it's all right. It's a cool little different side game, but it's definitely one of the weaker entries to the franchise, and it's definitely not canon. I forgot who's the star of this. It doesn't really star in the main characters, but check it out. It is pretty expensive. I mean, other games are more affordable, but for some reason that is more expensive. Came out, I believe in 2000. Oh, so Capcom, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of the 2D fighting Capcom games, but there are superior versions of that, like on the Sega Saturn anyways. But this one is one of my favorite 3D fighters on the PlayStation, and it's a very expensive game nowadays. You have Rival Schools, and I love the art styles in this crazy game. Like this, all the classmates are fighting each other, like different schools, and like it had a lot of fun tag team action, like tag team moves that you like that really like make it stand out between different fighting games of the time. You should definitely try this out. Find a way to get your hands on it. And also, there's a sequel to this called Project Justice, and also this was made by the creator of Power Stone, and also director of the newer Devil May Cry games. And you should definitely pick this up. I think it's underrated or overlooked nowadays, and I wish they'll bring this back. Next, I mean, this was it's funny. This is supposed to be a certain franchise, but unfortunately, the creator moved to a different, I think, company, and it wasn't working for Sony anymore. But this is Road Trip Vacation 2012. Yeah, the future, near distant future of 2012, guys. And in the back it says it all. What's more important, the name or the game? And on the top, and they're referring to Twisted Metal. So this is really supposed to be the third Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal 1 and 2 was made by a single track and David Jaffe, but unfortunately, I think like something happened between them and Sony, and they decided to part ways. And this is made by GT Interactive Software instead of the first party Sony game. So this is like really the real Twisted Metal, and it has the same feel, and it's a good game. So don't overlook this game. This is actually the real Twisted Metal 3, but we'll get to that. Next, I don't have the disc for this. We have Roll Away, made by Psygnotic, the first company that was joined Sony, because it was a third-party company before that. But this is like a puzzle game where you like roll the ball through the maze, and it's a lot of fun actually. You should definitely try this out. Roll Away. Yeah, Psygnotic. It was now they were Liverpool, but they got shut down unfortunately. That was the first studio that Sony bought, third-party studio. So the very first Sony studio. Next, one of the best games on the PlayStation, top 10 for me. Love this game so much. Silent Hill, the original. Now, Konami wanted something to compete with the original Resident Evil because it was such a big deal back in the day. And the Team Silent, the creators of this, didn't want to do like a blockbuster big game like that, a horror game. So they decided to get creative with it. So like Konami's like, forget it, just do your own thing, and they just went wild with this. The atmosphere in this game and like the creature designs is horrifying. The camera angles, like they, instead of like the pre-rendered backgrounds, they use actual 3D environments, and it, you know, it allows them to do more with it. Like even in the beginning, they showcase what they can do with the actual 3D environment, so they can move the camera while you move, and it's very impressive. It's like, I played this like a couple years ago, and it's still scary to this day. Very memorable story. In terms of atmosphere and like the actual character, the story is definitely better than Resident Evil, but like the gameplay, you know, is still better in Resident Evil in my opinion. So definitely a classic. And actually play the sequel, and also 3, all of them classics. Also, music by Akira Yamaoka, one of the best in the game in terms of music in any video game, bar none. Next, we have one of my favorite movies back in the day. It's forgotten nowadays. We have Small Soldiers, the game that goes with the movie. I mean, I don't really remember much to this game. We used to play in the multiplayer a lot. Never really got far, got lost in the game. It's like a third-person shooter slash hack and slash beat 'em up. Just watch the movie, I would say. The movie's still good, I think. Ooh, one of the biggest franchises going on right now, and a big PlayStation exclusive nowadays. But this was made by Neversoft, you know, makers of Tony Hawk. We have Spider-Man. Great game. When I went back to play this, I was surprised by the cutscenes was actually really done really well. The voice acting, and like it was really good actually, surprisingly for a 2000 game. But yeah, like I said, it was made by Neversoft. The controls are like, you know, you have to get used to it, but it's still a good game. You should definitely play this. Most of the Spider-Man games are pretty good, but the real spider of PlayStation is Spider, the video game. I don't know, it's so it's like on the cover is just like a spider with like a knife, I think a gun, and like you play as like a genetically enhanced spider, and you go around trying to escape or get revenge. I don't know, it's a really weird game that I played a little bit of. Very obscure. I don't know much to say about that. Spider the video game, only on the PlayStation. Next, we have a trilogy that I unfortunately don't have any of the black label games cases for. One of the most popular ones, made by Insomniac. I unfortunately did not really play this growing up. We have the Spiral trilogy. We have the first game. The second game I only have the disc for, unfortunately. And the third game, Spiral Year of the Dragon. I can't say much about it. I played the first one, a couple hours of it. Fun platformer. You know, it was a signature franchise back in the day with Crash and Spiral. I mean, you don't really get games like this as much anymore. And they do have the Spiral trilogy, I think Reunited, that came out on the PlayStation 4. So get that or get this. Great games. Definitely recommend. So this next game, published by Enix, made by Tri-Ace, we have Star Ocean, the second story. So we didn't get the original one, the original Star Ocean that was only made in Japan on the Super Nintendo. But we got this one in '99, and you can pick either Claude or Arena, the two protagonists, and it says it has over 80 endings in this, and that's insane. So there's a lot of replay value in this. Sci-fi, you know, going to space, going to different worlds. It's cool. So I played a little bit of it, and I liked it so far. One of my favorite fighting franchises, and one of my favorite covers of all time. We have Street Fighter Alpha 2. I don't have that case, but I have the manual and the game disc right there. I absolutely love this, and I used that for the trivia episode I did. Street Fighter Alpha 2, I mean, the Alpha franchise is great. Like, it's more, I think it's like a lot more colorful, and also like the characters are younger and introduce a lot of different characters. I mean, it's Street Fighter, lots of fun, and they made 3 of them. You can't go wrong with any of them. Next, we have Scython Filter 2, one of my favorites growing up. In similar vein of Metal Gear Solid's, you know, tactical espionage. I just love like tasing people to death and like making them burst into flames. The multiplayer was fun too. I don't think I've actually ever beat this game, but it was a lot of fun. Made by Ben Studio, of course. Next, my favorite 3D fighter on any platform started here on the PlayStation, and one of my other big box games, long box games, I mean, we have Tekken. And look at that cover. It has that's the alternate cover of Kazuya. You open it up. Ooh. Got the cover. Iconic 3D fighting franchise made by Namco. I just love the character designs, the story, the crazy story and characters. The music is great. The first one is a little floaty in terms of the gameplay and the jumping, and it's really slow pace. It will get better with each entry. Speaking of that, we have Tekken 2. I think that the franchise really came into its own with this entry, and yeah, added more characters, and I love it. The intro is fucking dope. The crazy character endings, I love it. Such a great sense of humor. It seems serious, but these games are silly. But my favorites, one of my favorite games on the PS1, top 10, and my favorite fighter on the system, we have Tekken 3. I used to play this all the time, and this game is still great to this day. One of the best fighting games of all time. Really, just like changed the game in terms of fighting games, and like cemented its place in history. Tekken, and so many great characters like Eddie and all the characters. Paul, Heihachi, Kazuya, Law, Lee and Lei, and June, like so many fucking characters, so great, such a great franchise. Play 3 definitely into, and it will just continue on after that, and we're on 7. Hopefully we're getting 8 soon. Next, we have a stealth game published by Activision. We have Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Yeah, it's a great stealth game. You know, a little different from Metal Gear Solid. Definitely must play. And also, there's a lot of entries in the series. Great franchise. Next, one of the biggest franchises that came out on the PlayStation, and you know, one of the first sex symbols of video gaming. We have Tomb Raider, and this was part of the collection for like a Tomb Raider back in the day. It's like the white label. You don't really see that much, but I only have the first one in that, and this was like a big deal. Like, she was everywhere and on every magazine. Like, every guy wanted to be with her. And like, it's like she's like iconic back in the day. Still going on to this day. Made by Core Design. And we have the sequel 2 and 3. A lot of great exploration. The controls are hard to get used to in this game, and like, you know, back in the day I didn't really even like to play it because I got lost. But I'm gonna give it a fair shot one day. But Tomb Raider, you can't go wrong with it. Next, we have another Disney game that is great. They used to make a lot of great licensed games back in the day. We have Toy Story 2, and you play as Buzz Lightyear. I think you're trying to rescue Woody in this, but this is a great 3D platformer game, and I was so surprised when I played this back in the day. I was like, man, this is so much fun. Like, the original one is good too. The original Toy Story game. It's a 2D game, but this, I mean, like, yeah, 2D game. This game is 3D, like, as I said, but definitely pick this up. It's not that expensive. Next, one of the signature franchises of the PlayStation, an early release, and like I was talking about earlier, Road Trip. This was the actual series that it came from. We have Twisted Metal, the original long box version. So one of the signature franchises of the PlayStation. Like, it had like a lot of sequels on it, and this is the first game in the series. We have Twisted Metal, made by David Jaffe, the creator of the original God of War from 2005. This is like a really dark, edgy vehicular combat game that was like new of the day. So like a lot of imitators back in the day, like Vigilante 8, and then later on, you know, they made Rogue Trip. But this has the long box version, and this is like the different type of long box, not the jewel case one, but the ridged one right there. But still fun. It's a little dated. This came out early in the PlayStation, like I said. But then the best one in the franchise, I unfortunately don't have the case for this. We have Twisted Metal 2 with Sweet Tooth looking menacing. Now this game is still fun to this day, I believe. The controls are hard to, a little get used to because it has like the old school design to it. But I still think this is a great game. It like expanded the characters in like the arenas, and like you go around the world and like you fight like at Paris, like in the Eiffel Tower. It's crazy. But definitely, if you need to play a Twisted Metal game, play this or Black on the PS2. And then, unfortunately, this is the game. This is the Twisted Metal game I grew up with. I had no idea. This is like after David Jaffe and them left. And then this game was made by 989 Studios. We have Twisted Metal 3. Unfortunately, I don't have the actual front case to this right there. But this game is that I played the second one, then I go to the third one, and it just doesn't feel right. But I had no idea back then. I just enjoyed the edginess of Twisted Metal and the car combat. Still fun to play, but I would just play 2 over that one. And they made a 4th one, which is even worse than the 3rd one. So this game is an Overlook RPG made by Squaresoft. A later RPG made on the system. We have Vagrant Story. Now this game, I was playing it earlier, and the intro is so engrossing. Super cinematic. The great cinematography. The character designs are great. Man, you need to play this game. So what I've seen so far is beautiful, and I can't wait to play more of it. It has like similar gameplay to Parasite Eve, and I was surprised by that. I didn't know that. And it's not exactly the same, but it has like that real-time battle mechanics of Parasite Eve that I really enjoy. Kind of like an action turn-based tactical game, and I really enjoyed it. But like the art, the story so far was engrossing, and especially the cinematography was great. So check it out. This next game features my favorite hip-hop group of all time, the very first hip-hop group to ever have their own video game. It's Wu-Tang Shaolin Style. So this game is based off of a cancel game called Thrill Kill. It was like a multiplayer, like kind of fighting game, 3D fighter game, where it's like very violent, similar to Mortal Kombat. That was canceled because it was too violent. So in this engine, they used the engine for this game, and they decided to release it with Wu-Tang. So I thought this game is actually pretty good. It's true to the Wu-Tang name, and it's decent so far from what I played. But yeah, it has like all the members and stuff, and like music featuring Wu-Tang. So definitely check this out. It's kind of expensive, but definitely check this out if you're a fan of Wu-Tang and fighting games. Next, another Psygnosis game, one of their most important franchises. We have Wipeout 3, and I am a big fan of that cover. A futuristic racing game featuring like similar vehicles to like F-Zero, and I enjoyed it a lot. I still like F-Zero more. Still fun to play to this day. There's many Wipeout games, and too bad they don't really make them anymore. Last one I think was on the Vita, but check it out if you like racing games similar to F-Zero. Now this one, I don't know if this is underrated or it's just because I had this as a kid. We had Wild 9. It's like one of those rental games where like you check it out, like you look at the cover, I'm like, I guess that'll be fun. So Wild 9, it's like a kind of a 2D kind of platformer action game where it's like a big deal to like torture your enemies. Like it's like torture your enemies. I forgot what's the tagline. Yeah, torture your enemies, and like you can like put them in this beam and like fucking like wreck them like with the beam, and it's kind of weird. Made by Shiny Entertainment, distributed by Interplay. Yeah, definitely, this is definitely an Interplay game. Yeah, if you want to check it out, something weird and quirky like this, Wild 9, you can't go wrong. Then we get into some wrestling games. Now the N64 was known for like the No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000, and the WCW NWO games. Great games, some of the best wrestling games of all time. Now the PlayStation had the SmackDown series, but first, before that, they had the WrestleMania arcade game, and then like little known WWF In Your House. So that was like the pay-per-view back in the day, like the cheaper pay-per-view from the WWF, and this is this kind of the sequel to the WrestleMania arcade game. Very similar style, more like it's not really wrestling, it's more like just a fighting game with like really crazy over the top moves. But I don't think this is as good as WrestleMania, unfortunately. But it's a good game. I mean, it has some, classics of the back in the day: Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Vader, Undertaker, Owen Hart. So I like this era of wrestling. This is like right before wrestling got really popular again. So this is like flashback to that time of like the mid 90s. Then we got two games that I had, and like this is like one of the first wrestling games I got. So unfortunately, this is cracked. SmackDown. Just SmackDown, the first one, and then SmackDown Know Your Role. So these were developed by Ukes, as I mentioned before, with the Evil Zone game, and they make all like the WWE games nowadays. These two came out on the same year, 2000, and just like I guess it's just like the updated version of this. But I used to play this all the time. Man, they had like so many different like modes, like ladder matches, hardcore matches, like Hell in a Cell, and like the graphics were amazing at the time, and like it was really realistic, and it's still fun to play to this day. I think I prefer the N64 games, but like in terms of like the graphics and like the presentation, I think this one was like a little bit better. But definitely check out SmackDown 1 and 2. My final North American game, one of the most acclaimed games on there, Squaresoft RPG, Xenogears. Unfortunately, this is cracked right there, but Xenogears came out in '98. So this game is a lot of fun, turn-based RPG with amazing graphics, amazing cutscenes, and I love the art style. Now this one, unfortunately, it ran out of time because like the first disc is like fully complete, but like I heard the second disc is like a lot of text based. It's not like a lot of action, so they like ran out of time, so they had to hurry up and finish the game. So unfortunately, it wasn't like the vision that they had at the beginning, but it's still a great game and definitely a sought after game on the PS1. And like it will continue on. I think Monolith Soft was like broke off from the Squaresoft, and then you made Xenosaga, all those games, Xenoblades. So it continued on, and it started here, Xenogears. And then finally, I forgot. I forgot WCW in Nitro. This game is not that good. I don't have the full case for it. Do not probably get these games like WCW Nitro, the WWF Warzone, those type of games. Those games are kind of not that good. That's why I forgot about them. But they're there. They had like Sting, and there's great wrestling was great back then, but some of the games were not so great. So let me get to my final 3 games. That was all my North American games. Let me get to show you my 3 Japanese games. I got these because I like the packaging, and like to have see the differences between the North American and the Japanese. And I really like the packaging better than the North American games, because this is Arc the Lad 3, the collection. I believe they have like all the first 3 games on here, and it shows the difference between the two, the spine. So this is a double disc game, Star Ocean, the front, the back. Unfortunately, I don't have Arc the Lad North American because it's super expensive. It's a great way to save money if you want it in your collection. Buy the Japanese version. I only have the manual and the disc for this, so Xenogears, the disc right there, and the manual. I like that a lot. You compare it to the North American. I like the logo a lot. Got that for super cheap. And then last game, we have Suikoden, the very first game. This cover is much better than the North American one, which was, I didn't like it at all. But this is part of the PlayStation Best series, so kind of like the greatest hits version in Japan, but you can see the difference. So that is it. That is every PS1 game that I own so far, and I will collect so much more. I enjoy collecting for the PS1 a lot. One of the greatest systems of all time. The games could get expensive, but there's a lot of hidden gems in the library. And let me know what's your favorite PS1 game, what's your favorite PlayStation system to collect for, and let me know what you want to see next in my collection. And I'll see you in the next dimension.